If you relate to being a people pleaser and you overextend yourself constantly, often at the expense of your own needs, but you're tired of living like that and you're ready to put your energy into yourself and your own goals, then this video is for you. It is time to enter your villain era. And when I say villain era, I mean this era of life where you are focusing unapologetically on yourself and your goals. You are setting healthy boundaries. You're embracing your own power. And all of that energy that you have been placing into other people, you are placing into yourself to create a beautiful life for yourself. Your villain era is about stepping out of the people-pleasing cycles and focusing on what truly fulfills you. It's deciding that you deserve to invest in yourself, even if there are some people in your life that don't agree or they don't understand. So in today's video, we're gonna be talking about entering your villain era, overcoming people-pleasing patterns, setting healthy boundaries, and focusing on yourself. This video is mostly gonna be for the girls because we're the ones that struggle with this the most, but I know that there are some men that watch my channel, so definitely feel free to watch as well if you wanna support any of the women in your life through this. And if you like these kinds of videos, definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell, and without further ado, let's get into it. So the reason we struggle with putting ourselves first as women is because of something called good girl conditioning. As little girls, we're essentially taught to be agreeable, to be nice, to be selfless, to put other people first. Whereas men, on the other hand, they are raised to be more assertive, more dominant, independent, and even competitive. I definitely feel like a lot of this is changing in our society nowadays, that the younger generations may not relate to this, but if you're watching this and you're in your 20s or your 30s, then you will more than likely relate to this. So what this good girl conditioning has done for us in our adulthood is it's made it very difficult for us as women to assert ourselves, to set boundaries, to speak up for ourselves. We're so used to being agreeable and just being the nice girl that oftentimes that means that we are sacrificing our own energy and our own time. And I feel like this also shows up in relationships because as women, we're so nurturing and we naturally have like caretaking energy. So it's really easy as women for us to lose ourselves in relationships because we're just so focused on our partner's happiness and our partner's needs. And this has happened to me in pretty much every single relationship that I've been in where I have lost myself. I have felt like I put my needs aside, I put my goals aside to focus more so on what will make my partner happy. But if we're constantly putting ourselves last, we end up living unfulfilling lives. And also, it builds resentment in our relationships because most of the time, it's not like our partners are asking us to lose ourselves. So we build almost like this subconscious resentment towards our partners or towards the people in our lives when we're the ones who are actually putting ourselves last. And it's up to us to create those boundaries. You can't really expect for other people to prioritize you if you don't prioritize yourself. And if we continue to put ourselves last, we will just continue to feel underappreciated and resentful and unfulfilled, especially when we realize that we aren't truly living for ourselves. And I'm definitely going to make a video about this, but this is kind of a little bit of a side note, this is why I truly believe that being single, especially when you're in your 20s, is a privilege. Because you are able to put so much energy into yourself and into your own goals. You don't have to compromise for another person. You don't have to make decisions for another person. You are able to be fully selfish, especially if you don't have kids. And of course, I think that you can definitely create a relationship where your partner is nourishing you and supporting you towards your goals. But if you don't have that, you can create that for yourself and you can be that for yourself. And I feel like that's a mindset shift that I have been taking on recently because I feel like especially now that I'm in my late 20s, it's easy to sometimes compare myself to people who are married or who have kids or who seem to be so much further ahead in those aspects. But then I realize how truly grateful I am that I have been single for a majority of my 20s because I've been able to do so much. I've been able to pick up my entire life and move to the West Coast and live in San Diego for 2 years just because I wanted to. I've been able to live in New York. I've been able to travel. I've been able to do so much because I haven't really had to sacrifice for another person. Also, I feel like I've learned so much about myself, and I've really created a level of independence within myself that I don't know that I would have been able to create if I had spent my entire 20s in a relationship with someone. If you have been in a relationship with somebody your entire 20s, like, I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I just wanted to share that for the girlies who are single, who have been single for a long time, that it's a privilege to be single. It's a privilege to be alone and to pour into yourself. So before I go into the practical steps of entering your villain era, I just want to remind you of something, that prioritizing yourself is not selfish. Putting your energy into yourself first is not selfish. It is actually the most selfless thing you can do. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane and they tell you that you need to put on your own oxygen mask first before you can help anybody else. Because you need to first make sure that you are okay and that you are safe and that you are full before you can pour into anybody else. I notice that when I'm pouring into myself and my energy, I am then better able to show up for other people in my life because I can be fully present with them. If I am taking care of myself and nourishing myself, I can be fully present in conversations that we have. I can hold space for my friends if they are going through some things. But if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not showing up for myself, I can't be that for anybody else. So I think putting yourself first is honestly very selfless. I think that you need to always put yourself first and do what is best for yourself. Of course, take this with a grain of salt if you have kids. I personally don't have kids, so I don't really know what it's like to put yourself first while you also have kids, because obviously you want to prioritize your kids. But I also think that even as a mother, you should put yourself first, because then you're then able to show up better for your kids. But again, that's just something I think. I don't know from like personal experience. Okay, so let's talk about practical tips for entering your villain era. And the first thing you need to do is recognize the way that you self-abandon. So I think that this can look different for everybody, but really noticing, how are you abandoning yourself? Whether it's in social situations, whether it's in relationships or friendships, in what ways are you not honoring yourself and your own needs? Is it that when you're in social situations, you become a little bit more agreeable? Or is it when you're in a relationship, you tend to stop going to the gym? Just really being self-aware of the ways that you self-abandon. And that will allow you to start setting boundaries with yourself. Because while yes, we want to set boundaries with other people, we also want to set boundaries for ourselves. So in my last relationship, I noticed that I was constantly self-abandoning because I had goals for myself. I wanted to work on my fitness and in my health, but whenever my ex would ask me like, hey, like, let's go out to dinner, let's order DoorDash instead of eating the meal prepped food that we have, I would say yes, because I'm like, okay, whatever, like, might as well. Or he would ask me to stay up late or to go out drinking, and I would do these things because I'm just like, okay, like, might as well, like, just have fun. But then I realized that the more that I kept on doing that, the more I held resentment towards him, even though I was the one saying yes. So I had to first set that boundary with myself. Like, okay, I am not going to order DoorDash if we have meal prepped food in the kitchen. I'm not going to go out for drinks on a weeknight. Just setting these boundaries with myself and then communicating that with him and saying, hey, these are the things that I'm working on towards myself. I would appreciate if you could help me kind of hold these promises to myself. And then after that, he would know not to push me on certain things. Like if I say no to drinking, not to push me. So start noticing the ways that you overextend yourself and the ways that you self-abandon so that you can start setting those boundaries. And then the next practical step is to start saying no more often and to start setting healthy boundaries with other people. So right now, I'm in a phase of my life where I am just really prioritizing myself and my goals, and I've had to say no to a lot of things. I've been saying no to going out with friends. I've been saying no to partying. I've been saying no to traveling. I'm essentially saying no to anything that will take me away from the goals that I'm working on. And that doesn't mean that I'm never gonna indulge, I'm never gonna party, I'm never gonna travel. It's just knowing what phase of life you're in, knowing what your goals are for the phase of life that you're in, and acting in alignment with that. Saying no to somebody else means saying yes to yourself. I have pretty much told everybody in my life that for the next at least 6 months, my life is going to be looking pretty boring, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with delaying gratification and saying no to things that I normally would have said yes to. And that's something that I had to realize for myself too, is that I have always been very down for things. I have always been a yes girl. Like, I feel like you can ask me to go out tonight and I'll be like, yeah, I'm down, let's do it. Like, I'm just that's kind of how I always have been. Like, I'm pretty down for a lot of things. I do like being spontaneous. I do like going out and having fun and doing things. So that's something that I had to essentially set a boundary with myself. Like, no, instead of saying yes right away, instead of just saying I'm down for anything, giving myself the space to really think and tune in with myself and my goals, and then honoring that. And sometimes for me, it's not necessarily about people pleasing. It's just that I get so excited in the moment that when somebody says like, oh my God, do you want to go out tonight? Do you want to go to this concert with me? I'm like, yes, let's do it. I'm so down. So something that I'm implementing and practicing with myself is, instead of saying yes right away, just pausing and saying, I will let you know. To just give myself the time and space to just think about whether that's truly something that's gonna honor me and my goals. So the next practical step is to focus on self-validation. So when you're in a villain era and you are focusing on yourself, you will have to learn how to rely on yourself to make your own decisions and to do what's best for you. So that means to stop asking everybody in your life for advice and for opinions on what they think you should do, and instead tuning in with yourself and honoring what you truly want to do. Because at the end of the day, only you know what's best for you. And I think sometimes, especially if you have really close friends in your life, you can kind of convince yourself that your best friend knows you better than you know yourself. It would just be easier to like text your best friend and say, hey, what do you think I should do about this? But just in those moments, sort of practicing self-validation, saying, you know what, I'm actually gonna sit with this myself and decide for myself what I think is best for me. And then I can talk to her after and say, hey, this is what I'm deciding to do for myself. What are your thoughts? Or if you're not ready to hear anybody's thoughts, then just simply stating and saying, just looking for support, not really looking for any feedback. I think that is really helpful, especially if you're the type of person who's constantly asking other people for advice and for their opinion on what they think you should do. And I think part of this is building self-trust and building confidence in yourself, in your ability to make decisions that are best for you. So affirming to yourself, I trust myself to make decisions that are right for me, or I am capable of choosing what's best for my growth and my happiness. When you stop relying on other people's opinions, you'll start to notice that your confidence and your clarity comes from within. And you also notice that you have known the answer all along, that the answers are always within you. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it just takes, using certain tools, whether it's meditating or EFT tapping or journaling, to sort of like uncover what you truly want. But at the end of the day, you know what's best for you. It definitely takes practice, but the more that you learn to make decisions independently, the more you build that trust within yourself and that self-confidence. Okay, and the last practical step to entering your villain era is to prioritize taking care of yourself. Your self-care is key when you're in this era of really focusing on yourself, because you want to make sure that you're showing up your best. And I really do feel like showing up your best means pouring into yourself and doing the things that make you feel your best. So for me, the things that make me feel my best is having a solid morning routine, going to the gym consistently, movement, being out in nature, doing my self-care, putting on makeup, putting on a cute outfit, actually putting effort into my appearance, doing my hair. All of these things just make me feel so much better about myself. So focusing on the ways that you can nourish yourself, especially in this era of setting boundaries with people that may involve a period of solitude, especially if the people in your life don't necessarily respect your boundaries, or they don't really support you putting so much energy into yourself for whatever reason that is. which, by the way, that is just a clear sign that that person does not really want what's best for you if they take your boundaries and putting your energy into yourself to mean something negative. So do the things that make you feel your best so that you can consistently show up for yourself and your goals. And then the final part to your villain era is that you may feel guilt come up, especially if you've always been the type of person to overextend yourself for other people and to be a people pleaser. You will probably feel pretty guilty for prioritizing yourself and your own needs. But just reminding yourself that that feeling of guilt is not a sign of selfishness, it's a sign of growth. And the people who truly want the best for you will be understanding and they'll be supportive of you. They will be cheering you on for focusing on your goals. And maybe not at first, but later on, people will feel inspired. So stay consistent and be patient. Another aspect to entering your villain era is to walk away from what no longer serves you. And I think that this is probably the most challenging aspect of entering your villain era because it involves letting go. It involves not just letting go of people sometimes, but also letting go of habits, letting go of your crutches, letting go of the things that have essentially become like your coping mechanism. So when I left San Diego, I had to leave everything that I had known for 2 years. I left my life that I had built for myself. I left the community that I made. I left the relationship that I was in. I had to choose myself and walk away from what was no longer serving me. And that requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of belief in yourself. And I don't think that that courage and that belief in yourself just comes out of nowhere. Oftentimes you will have to walk away before you feel ready to. But after you walk away from what no longer serves you, that is when you start to feel confident and like really self-empowered. Even though it's been very challenging having to essentially rebuild my life and start over and, like I said, leave so many things behind, I have felt so empowered in myself, and also listening to my intuition has been so rewarding because that was something that my intuition was telling me for such a long time was to leave. And I stayed because I was comfortable. I stayed because I was so afraid of what other people would think of me. I was so afraid of how it would be perceived. I was so afraid of so many different things. And I was also afraid of starting over. Starting over is scary. Leaving what no longer serves you is scary. But the thought of staying in something that was not for my highest good was even scarier, honestly. The idea of settling and being miserable for the rest of my life was even scarier. So really just focus on that as you enter your villain era and you walk away from what no longer serves you. I think that's going to be pretty much everything for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Definitely leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.